सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु
सह वीर्यं करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा
विद्विषावहै।
ॐ
ॐ
शान्ति
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 शान्तिः. Okay, that's it. It's been a bit since we have done the Taittiriya, almost 3 weeks now. So I hope you remember that we were on the Upasanas and we had done the Viharati Upasanas. That was completed, and we had said that we will now go on to the third set of Upasanas. So this is Anuvaka 5, the 5th section, and we had completed a certain portion. So we have to start now from the portion which goes, one second, let me see where it is. Where is it? Yeah. So this Anuvaka starts with Bhur Bhuvasvaha, and we had finished the 10th part of it. For those of you who are following the Mantra Pushpam, the 10th verse is over. The 10th part, 10th subsegment of the Anuvaka 5 is over, and we had finished Bhava iti Vayuhu, Suva iti Adityaha, Maha iti Chandrama, and Chandramasa Vava Sarvani Jyotigamshi Mahiyante. After there we had finished. So the portion we are now going to start is Bhuritiva Rachaha. So we'll chant that here. Bhuritiva Rachaha.
Bhuritiva Richaha.
Bhuva iti Samani.
Bhuva iti
Samani.
Suvariti Yajugamshi.
Suvariti
Yajugamshi.
Maha iti Brahma.
Maha iti Brahma.
Brahmana Vava Sarve Veda Mahiyante.
Brahmana Sarve Veda Mahiyante.
Okay, so we'll take that much portion. This is the next Upasana. I'll just mute you all first. Okay. So Bhuvar iti Varachaha. So you have to break it as Bhuhu iti Vai Rachaha. So Bhu is to be meditated upon as Rachaha. The Rachaha is the Rig Veda. Rig Veda mantra is called Rachaha. So on the Bhu Viharati, we have to meditate upon the Rig Veda mantras. Similarly, Bhuva iti Samani. Samani is for Samaveda. So on Bhuvaha Viharati, you have to meditate upon the Samaveda mantras. And Suvaha iti Yajugamshi. On Suvaha, you have to meditate upon the Yajurveda mantras. And Maha iti Brahma. So here the word Brahma doesn't mean Brahmaji or Brahman. It means Omkara. So we'll see why later. So Maha iti Brahma means on Maha you have to meditate upon Omkara. And Brahmana Vava. Brahmana Vai Eva. Vai Eva means by Brahmana alone. And as we said, Brahmana here is Omkara. So Brahmana Vai Vava means Brahmana Vai Eva. By Omkara alone, Sarve Vedaha Mahiyante. All the Vedas are glorified. Simple meaning, by Omkara alone, all the Vedas are glorified. So this is the third Viharati Upasana. We had seen that we had done the second Viharati Upasana and we had dismissed all those objects, and now we are bringing in 4 more objects upon the 4 Viharatis. And here the objects are Vedic objects. And therefore this is called the Adi Veda Viharati Upasana. What are the objects? Rik mantras is to be brought in upon Bhuhu, Sama mantras on Bhuvaha, Yajur mantras on Suvaha, and Omkaraha is invoked on the Maha Viharati. So why is Brahma here taken as Omkara? Because that is not the literal meaning, right? Literal meaning of Omkara is Om only, the Shabda, the word. So here Shankara says, gives an explanation. He says, because you have to look at the context. And what is the context? The Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, and Suvaha are the contexts. And these are all Vyaratis. And they all refer to the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, and Samaveda because that is what we are invoking on them. So here Veda means the Veda mantras, which is basically Shabda Pradhanam, predominantly sound, predominantly Veda. And since on Bhuhu, you are invoking Sama, you're invoking Rig, Yajur, and Sama on the three Vyaratis, contextually, the fourth should also be related to Shabda Pramanam. Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, and Samaveda are what? They are sounds, they are mantras. And therefore, since the context is the Rig, Yajur, and Sama mantras, Brahma should also be a mantra only. Brahma cannot be Brahmaji. Therefore, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda is Shabda Pramanam. And Shankara says, because of that context, Brahma here also has to be Shabda Pradhanam. And therefore, there is only Omkara, which is contextually fitting into this meaning. And therefore, no other meaning excepting Omkara can be taken. And also, we have to remember the story that Omkara is the essence extracted from the three Vedas. And therefore, you can say that Omkara is the essence. It pervades the three Vedas. And therefore, Brahma here is to be taken as Omkara. This is the third Vyarati, right? With this, again, one has to dismiss all the objects. And then one has to go to the fourth Vyarati. And the fourth one is the last Vyarati Upasana. So we will chant over here. Okay, we will chant from Mahaiti Brahma. So Mahaiti Brahma. Brahmana Vava Sarve Veda Mahiyante.
Brahmana sarve mahiyate
Yante
Bhurati Vai Pranaha.
Puriti
Pranaha
Bhuva Ityapanaha.
Bhuva ityapanaha.
Suvariti Vyanaha.
Suvaritivyanaha.
Maha Iti Annam.
Maha iti
Annam.
Annena Vava Sarve Pranamahiyante.
Annena
Vava sarve pranamahiyante.
Okay. So we saw the other part first, that Brahmana Vava Sarve Veda Mahiyante. By Omkara only, all the Vedas are glorified. With that, the third Viharati Upasana ends. And now we are looking at the fourth Viharati Upasana. So Bhuhu Iti Vai Pranaha. So same. Vyaratis are the same. Bhuva, Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, and Mahaha. The objects are changing. Now on Bhuhu, Prana is to be invoked. So Bhuhu Iti Vai Pranaha. On Bhuhu, you have to invoke Pranaha and meditate. On Bhuvaha, you have to invoke Apana and meditate. On Suvaha, you have to invoke Vyana and meditate. And on Maha, you have to invoke Annam and meditate. Why? Annena vava sarve prana mahiyante. Annena vai eva. By food alone. Annena vai eva. By food alone. Sarve prana mahiyante. All the pranas are blessed. All of them are glorified. All of them are given validation because of annam alone. Because of food alone. And since here pranas are the objects, so this is also known as Adhi Prana Vyarati Upasana. Okay. Now look at Bhuhu iti vai pranaha. So what is pranaha? What is the definition of pranaha? Inhaled air or exhaled air?
Exhaled.
Exhaled air, right? This is very important because normally in yoga we take prana as inhalation, but the definition is prak gamanavan vayuhu pranaha. The air which goes upwards, outwards, is the exhaled air. And therefore, the exhaled air, prana, is invoked on bhuhu vyarati and apanaha, adho gamanavan vayuhu apanaha. Adho means downwards, the air moving down into the body after entering your nostrils. That is called apana. And also, that is the reason because it goes downwards. Its force is downwards, and therefore it helps in throwing out the food from the body, excretion. So it is also called apanaha. Then the third one is suvaha iti vyanaha. So, in line with the earlier definition, there is a definition called Vishwak Gamanavan Vayuhu iti Vyanaha. Vishwak is all directions. Therefore, Vyanaha is that energy which circulates in all parts of the body. So it helps in delivery of nutrition to all parts of the body. It helps in the blood circulation, etc. So Suvar iti Vyanaha. Vyanaha is to be meditated upon. Suvaha Vyarati. And Maha iti Annam. Annam is the object which you invoke on Maha. And he says, Annena vava sarve prana mahiyante. It is only through food alone that all the pranas are glorified. Can you give a reason why? Remember that the three objects, prana, apana, vyana, are the angams, the subsidiary objects. The main object is always on Maha Vyarati. So the main object here is food. Food is a substratum on which the three pranas are being invoked. Why? Very simple answer.
Nourishes the prana.
Sorry?
Food nourishes the pranas.
Exactly. Without food, prana will soon, not be weaken out and be extinct. And therefore, food is very important. So we have seen 4 viharatis and we have seen 4 objects on each of the meditations. So 4 into 4, 16 objects have been invoked on these 4 viharatis, which are Bhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, and Maha. The viharatis have remained the same. 4 different upasanas have been there. In each upasana, 4 objects have been there, one on each viharati. So totally 16 objects have been invoked on the alambanam, on the substratum, on the support, which is the viharati. Okay. Now that is being concluded. So we will take it further.
Acharyaji,
Yes.
the Vyaharati and the Alambalam is both these words are synonyms?
No. Viharati is the what you call term given to Bhu, Bhuva, Swaha, Maha. Because they have been invoked by, they have been spoken. Vyarataha, they have been spoken by Brahmaji. Alambanam simply means support, substratum. In this case, the Vyaratis are the Alambanams. But it can be anything else could also be a Alambanam. It's not necessary that Vyarati has to be the Alambanam. Okay. Now we look at.
Sorry, one last question. So you said in this case, Vyarati is the Alambanam.
Yeah.
Where in here, Om Bhurbhuva is the Vyarati, but is Prana not the Alambanam? Prana, Apana, and
Prana is
Vyana?
the object invoked.
Object
The object is being invoked upon the Alambanam.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. So the last part of this Anuvaka 5. Tava etaschatastraschaturtha
Tava
एताश्चतुर्धा
So it's a bit of a tongue twister, so go slowly over it. Tava etaschatastraschaturtha
Tava
एताश्चतस्रचतुर्धा
chatasraschatasro vyahritayah
चतस्रचतस्रो व्याहृतयः
chatasraschatasro vyahritayah
चतस्रचतस्रो व्याहृतयः
tayo veda
Tayo Veda
saveda brahma
Saveda Brahma
sarve esmai deva bali mavahanti.
Sarve
मयि देवा बलिमावहन्ति
Okay, so this is the conclusion. So you have to look at the word and you have to break it up carefully. Ta vai etaha chatasraha chatasraha chaturdha. So I'll say it again. Ta vai etaha. So actually taha vai etaha chatasraha chaturdha chatasraha vyaratayah. Okay, so this is the breakup is like that. Taha vai etaha chatasraha chaturdha chatasraha twice vyaratayah. Then sayavedaha taha veda brahma and sarve devaha avahanti asmai balim. So let's look at the words when broken up. So we are having taha vai, these vyaratis, taha vai, these vyaratis indeed, etaha chatasraha, these four vyaratis. So taha is vyarati and chatasraha is saying how many tahas are there. So taha chatasraha etaha, these four vyaratis, that is the meaning of taha vai etaha chatasraha and chaturdha. These four vyaratis have been meditated upon in four ways. Okay, so four upasanas we are talking about. There are four upasanas. Each upasana is one part of the chaturdha. So taha vai etaha chatasrasaha, these four vyaratis we have meditated upon 4 times, invoking chatasraha vyarataya. Right? Each of these four vyaratis have been there in each meditation, and upon them we have invoked 4 different objects in each upasana, giving total of 60. So that's what he's saying. Aha vaihi etaha chatasraha chaturdha chatasraha vyarataya. In short, we have used 4 vyaratis, and upon each of the 4 vyaratis we have invoked 4 objects, and we have done this 4 times. I hope I'm not confusing you. We have done it 4 times. Therefore, we have done 4 upasanas which have 4 vyaratis as the basis and 16 different objects. 4 objects at each time. So that with that, the conclusion is over. Then he says, Saha yaha taha vedaha. He who knows. Saha yaha vedaha taha. He who knows these vyaratis and this meditation as Veda Brahma. He knows Brahmaji also. He knows Hiranyagarbha also. And Sarve Devaha, all the gods, Asmai, to that meditator, Balim Avahanti. They bring offerings to him. Okay. A very, very beautiful little part of it. So what is he saying? In this manner, we have meditated upon the 4 viharatis in 4 different ways, and thus totally 16 objects we have seen. Now Shankara in his commentary says that this particular conclusion the order of the conclusion. He is saying chatasraha, etc., is to indicate that the upasana should be done exactly in the same order as indicated in the upasana, in the Upanishad. Right? You cannot interchange the objects. You cannot interchange the order. You cannot have a different object on a different vyarati. You have to do it exactly in the manner in which the Upanishad says so. And this is something which I have said again and again. When you do ritualistic things, karma kanda, when you follow for material benefits, you have to follow the rules exactly. You have no leeway about loosening up any rules. Everything has to be done in exactly the same order, in exactly the same manner as indicated in the Shruti. And therefore he says, Savedaha, he who knows and meditates upon the Viharatis in this manner only, he knows Hiranyagarbha. Okay, so the object mentioned has a corresponding Viharati in the Upanishad, in the mantra, and you cannot interchange that, right? The Shastra does not give you the freedom to do any relaxation in the rules. And now he says, Taha Vedaha, the one who prescribes, who meditates as prescribed, Sa Brahma Vedaha. Here, of course, Brahma means Hiranyagarbha, Saguna Brahmaji. So, hence, really speaking, this Upasana, even though it is on the Vyaratis, nowhere in the Upasana, remember, we have mentioned Saguna Brahma, right? It's a very subtle point here. Nowhere in the Upasana, Saguna Brahma has been mentioned. Now, in the Phalam, in the consequences, he is saying that if you have done the Upasana in exactly the same way as we have said, then you will know Brahmaji. And therefore, you have to understand from here, you have to extract from this word, that is actually it is a Hiranyagarbha Upasana. It is a Upasana, it's a meditation on Brahmaji only, right? And again Shastra says that you will get the result of a phalam, the result of an Upasana in exactly the same manner in which you do the Upasana. So here if you do this Upasana and he says Sa Brahma Veda, he is saying that really speaking, you will become one with Brahmaji as a result of the Upasana. Brahmaji, remember, is Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha is universal, subtle body, samashti, sukshma shariram. And since it is samashti sukshma shariram, it is samashti mind, right? It is a universal mind. And therefore, this Hiranyagarbha has got total knowledge, complete knowledge. So if someone is practicing Vyarati Upasana, remember the saying, Yatha Yatha Upasate Tadeva Bhavati. In whichever way you meditate, you will become that only. And here again, Shankara adds a point saying that in the next Anuvaka, in the sixth Anuvaka, a complete Hiranyagarbha Upasana is talked about, right? And so Shankara says that this fifth Anuvaka, remember, is not a Angi Upasana. It is not a main Upasana. It is a Angam Upasana. It should go along with the sixth Anuvaka. So the Vyarati Upasana is not an independent Upasana. This is not mentioned in the scripture. It is not mentioned in the Upanishad. In Shruti Vakyam it is not there. But Shankara writes very clearly, because the sixth Anuvaka is Hiranyagarbha Upasana, and because in the fifth Anuvaka you have given the Phalam as becoming Hiranyagarbha, then because of that connection, this Vyarati Upasana has to be taken as going along with the next Upasana. In the sixth Anuvaka Upasana is there. The fifth Anuvaka Upasana has to be taken as going along with the sixth Anuvaka Upasana, and it should never be done by itself. Because if you do fifth Anuvaka by itself, then the phalam will not come. And doing this Upasana in combination with the Upasana in the sixth Anuvaka, then alone you will get the phalam of Hiranyagarbha. Right? And when do you become one with Hiranyagarbha? Supposing you have done this Upasana. When will you become one with Hiranyagarbha?
After dying, I don't know. After
Yes,
dying,
after
maybe.
you die. Okay, because you with your body you cannot become one, and if once you drop the physical body, then you will become one with Hiranyagarbha, right? So this Saveda Brahma has to be taken as Marana Anantaram. After the death of the physical body, this Upasaka who has done this fifth Anuvaka Upasana and the sixth Anuvaka Upasana, he will become one with Hiranyagarbha. So Hiranyagarbha, remember, is Samashti Sukshma Shariram. It is a total mind. And therefore, the total Jnana Indriyas are there. Jnana Indriyas are totally there. In short, it is a totality. And therefore, when he says that Sarve Devaha Asmai Balim Avahanti, all the Devas will come and worship this Hiranyagarbha, he is not talking about the sadhaka, right? Shankara also adds very specifically that it does not mean that devatas will bring offerings to the jiva sadhaka, but the devatas will bring offering to the sadhaka who has got Hiranyagarbha status in Brahmaloka after the death of his physical body. Right. So remember that Devata, if you look at Tattvabodha, Devata is the total power. For example, Surya Devata has got total eye power. Dik Devata has got total hearing power. And therefore, each Devata, we must recall always from Tattvabodha, represents the total power of one Jnanendriya, one sense organ. What is Hiranyagarbha? He represents the aggregate power of all the Devatas. And therefore, Hiranyagarbha represents total power of all Indriyas plus Prana Shakti plus Antakaranam, everything. Right? And what will this Upasaka become? He will get the glory of becoming Hiranyagarbha. Right? Please note that this phalam, it is Sakama Upasana phalam or Nishkama Upasana phalam. The phalam mentioned here, becoming one with Hiranyagarbha. Is it Sakama phalam or Nishkama phalam?
Nishkam.
Sakam.
It is Sakama phalam. Okay. And therefore, the Upasana can be practiced as Nishkama Upasana also. And when it gets practiced as Nishkama Upasana, remember the phalam becomes Chitta Shuddhi. Right? And that Chitta Shuddhi enables me to understand Shastra properly. So with this Anuvaka 5 is over. Any questions on this Anuvaka 5? It's a very beautiful Anuvaka. Talks about Saguna, Brahma, Upasana, but mentions that only in the phalam part of it. The rest is a description of the Upasana only. Okay. We haven't done much of Karma Kanda, so you might be finding it a bit strange looking at a lot of Karma Kanda around here. But then some of the Upanishads, they dwell upon Karma Kanda. Especially Taittiriya has two specific sections, first and third chapters. So for the Jnana Kanda, you have to wait for the second chapter. Okay, so now we will go to the Anuvaka number 6. So we will chant. Saya esho antahridaya akashaha.
Saya esho antarhridaya akashaha.
Saya esho antahridaya akashaha.
Saya esho antarhridaya akashaha.
Tasminnayam purusho manomaya.
Tasminnaya purusho manomaya.
Amrito hiranmayaha.
Amrito hiranmayaha.
Antarena taluke.
Antarena taluke.
Ye eshastana ivavalambate.
Yeshastana ivavalambate.
te indriyonihi.
te
Indriyonihi.
Te indriyonihi.
te
Indriyonihi.
Yatrasau keshanto vivartate.
yatra
Shanto vivartate.
Vyapohya shirshakapale.
yapo
Yapoha Shirshakapale.
Okay, so we'll take that part first. So I am, you have to break that properly. Sa ya eshaha antarhridayaha akashaha tasmin ayam purushaha manomayaha. So you have to take I am from there. I am purushaha. This Hiranyagarbha. I am purushaha. Purushaha here refers to Hiranyagarbha. I am purushaha. This Hiranyagarbha. What about him? Amritaha Hiranmayaha. Amritaha means eternal. Hiranmaya means shining, effulgent. So this Purushaha is, this Hiranyagarbha is eternal and shining. And Manomayaha, he is revealed through the mind. He should be meditated upon in the mind. And Tasmin, where should be the meditation? Tasmin here refers to the locus where you will invoke Hiranyagarbha. Because remember that there is a alambanam, there is a locus on which you have to invoke, right? Earlier we saw Vyaratis of invoking. So Tasmin, in that locus, you have to invoke Hiranyagarbha. Which locus? Saha Yaha Eshaha Akashaha Antarhridayaha. So look at the first line. Saha Yaha Eshaha Akashaha Antarhridayaha. So Saha Yaha Esha Akasha, which is that space, Antarhridayaha, in the heart. Okay, in the heart. And there is a definition. Yaha Eshaha Eva Avalambate Sthana Eva. So Yaha Eshaha Avalambate, which hangs down. So I'll come to that. Literally, this hangs down. Sthana Eva, like a nipple, it hangs down. And Antarena Taloke, in the mouth between the two palates, there's a whole very big description is there. Okay, so we're going to that only. Vyapohya means it comes out, breaking open actually, and Shirsha Kapale, through the crown of the head, and Yatra Asau Keshantaha Vivartate, where the roots of the hair, Keshaha Antaha, where the roots, Kesha Anta means the end of the hair basically, the roots of the hair. Yatra Asau Kesha Antaha, where the roots of the hair, Vivartate, are divided apart. Saha Indra Yonihi. This is called Indra Yonihi. A very involved portion. So let us look at it again properly. As I said earlier, Shankara says that these two sections, these two Anuvakas, Anuvaka number 5 and Anuvaka number 6, have to be treated as one Upasana. And the 6th Anuvaka Upasana is the Angi Upasanam, the main Upasana, and the Viharati Upasana outlined in 5th Anuvaka is the Anga Upasana. Okay. Now Shankara thinks we are all very bright, so he doesn't give the reasons. He just makes a statement and says this is Anga and this is the Angi, and you should understand. Okay. All advanced students. So Shankara doesn't comment, but there is another commentator called Sayanacharya. Okay. He says in his Bhashyam, he says that the 3 devatas represented by Bhu, Bhuvaha, and Suvaha are the Angas, the subsidiary parts of Hiranyagarbha, who is represented by Mahaha. Remember, we had Mahaha Vyarati and Bhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha. So there we took Mahaha as the Angi and Bhu, Bhuva, Swaha as the Angam. So he says here also the same thing is to be applied. Therefore, Hiranyagarbha is the very essence of the Vyaratis. And that is why here we have to say that the Vyarati Upasana is the Angam and the Hiranyagarbha Upasana is the Angi, the main one. And he says this is Hiranyagarbha is to be invoked on the space in the heart, right? So for practicing Hiranyagarbha Upasana, remember that when you are practicing Hiranyagarbha Upasana, you are invoking what? You are invoking the Samashti, Manaha, right? You are invoking the universal mind. Where? In your Vyashti Manaha, in your individual mind. Hiranyagarbha is Samashti Sukshma Shariram, Samashti mind. And that Samashti mind, that universal mind, you are invoking on the individual mind, because that is all you can do. Right? You don't have access to the individual, to the Samashti mind. You have access only to your individual mind. And therefore, when you invoke the universal mind, you are invoking that universal mind on your individual mind. The Samashti Manaha is to be made available to me as what? As the Vyashti Manaha. And therefore, the Hiranyagarbha is being invoked inside the heart, right? It's a very clear difference from Anuvaka number 5. In Anuvaka number 5, Hiranyagarbha was invoked where? We have just finished Anuvaka 5. Don't tell me you forgot all.
Vyartis. Vyartis.
Hiranyagarbha was invoked in which Vyarati?
Maha.
Maha Vyarati, right? That Vyarati is inside you or outside you?
Outside.
Right? So that is a crucial difference. In the 5th Anuvaka, Hiranyagarbha is invoked outside you on the Maha Vyarati. Here, Hiranyagarbha is being invoked inside your heart. Okay. So remember that there is a technical difference, and very, very important technical difference between the 5th Anuvaka Upasana and the 6th Anuvaka Upasana. When you invoke something outside you, it is a Upasana with a difference. The object of worship is different from the worshipper. So in the 5th Upasana, what you did was, the 5th Anuvaka Upasana, what you did was, you invoked Hiranyagarbha outside you on the Maha Vyarati, and therefore you are the Upasaka, and the Upasyam, the object of worship, which is Hiranyagarbha, is outside you. Right? Therefore, it is Bheda Upasana. Upasana where there is duality. While in the 6th Anuvaka, in this Upasana, what are you doing? You are invoking that Hiranyagarbha in your own mind. What do you worship with? You are worshipping using your own mind. And therefore, this 6th Anuvaka Upasana is Abheda Upasana. Upasana, but which is Abheda. There is no difference in the Upasana, in the subject and the object. Right? I hope you understand. Very important understanding. All Upasanas normally have subject-object duality. In this Upasana, the subject-object duality is not there. But remember, it is still an Upasana. Okay, you should not confuse with Abheda Jnanam. There is a clear distinction between non-dual Upasana and non-dual knowledge. Does it make sense? When
Yes.
you are invoking Hiranyagarbha on your heart, it is Upasana, but it is non-dual Upasana. What has been done is that you have done a adhyasa. You have done a superimposition of Hiranyagarbha upon yourself. This is Upasana. It is not knowledge. In Upasana, you can have dual Upasana with duality and Upasana without duality. So this is called Upasana without duality. But non-dual knowledge is completely different. That comes only after Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasana. Here, what is being done is Hiranyagarbha Upasana only. And this such an Upasana where you invoke the object of your worship, the Upasyam, on yourself is called Ahangraha Upasana. Different name is there, Ahangraha Upasana. Okay. So what is being done? Hiranyagarbha Upasana is introduced here. So Hiranyam literally means gold. And in this context, gold is shining, so it means knowledge. Gold also shines, knowledge also shines. And therefore, the word Hiranyam is used in the meaning of knowledge. Knowledge removes darkness of ignorance, just like the shining light from the gold removes the darkness. Right? So, knowledge removes darkness of ignorance. Therefore, Hiranyam can be taken as shining knowledge. Garbha literally means womb, but here it means within. Extension of the word Garbha, it means within. And therefore, Hiranyagarbha means that entity within which there is infinite knowledge, which is Hiranyagarbha. And therefore, such a Hiranyagarbha is to be meditated upon. Right? The Samashti Shukshma Shariram, the universal subtle body, is infinite. And hence, it is not possible for our finite minds, Vyashti minds, to even conceive of this infinite object, infinite entity. That's number one. Secondly, it is not pratyaksham. Samashti Hiranyagarbha, that is to say, Samashti Shukshma Shariram is not a visible entity. It is too subtle for us. How then do we meditate upon Hiranyagarbha? That's a question. And therefore, you do what you do in every meditation. You use an alambanam. You use a support. Like a coat hanger, no? The hanger on which you hang your coat. You have to use your own mind as an alambanam. On that mind, you have to hang Hiranyagarbha. So Vyashti Manaha, on the Vyashti Manaha, on the individual mind, using the mind as an alambanam, as a support, you have to invoke Hiranyagarbha. One of the advantages of this is what? Once you learn to invoke the Lord upon yourself, you are moving away from the karma kanda, where you are always invoking the Lord upon an external entity. In karma kanda, your invocation is always upon Shivalingam or some photo. It's always external, outside you. And therefore, in karma kanda, you are limited. You have a dasaha swami orientation. I am limited and I am worshipping the infinite Lord. As long as this particular orientation is there, Vedanta will not work on us. Because Vedanta says what? Aham Brahma Asmi. I am the Lord. And therefore here he is giving you the Upasana, how to get out of this orientation. Forget about external alambanams. You renounce all external alambanams. Keep your mind as the alambanam and start invoking the Lord in your mind in every meditation. And slowly, your Bheda Buddhi, your Dvaita Buddhi, dualistic intellect, let it gradually vanish. And I said this invocation upon the Lord upon yourself as a technical name. It is called Ahamgara Upasana. Okay. Now, where is this Vyashti Manaha located? According to scriptures, what is the Golakam for the Manaha?
Hridaya. Heart.
Golakam for the Mana is Hridaya. And Shankara in his commentary very clearly states that this is the physical heart, right? Because he gives the example that the heart is visible when the body of an animal is cut open, thereby clearly indicating that it is the physical heart. This is to rule out some mystical teachers who talk about a spiritual heart. So here, Shankara makes it clear that the Upanishad is referring purely to that functioning organ in your body, the heart, physical organ. And that physical organ is the Golakam for the mind. The mind, of course, remember the mind functions all over the body in the waking state. Mind is available all over the body, Jagrata Avastha. But in Sushupti Avastha, the mind withdraws and goes back to its bedroom, which is the heart. And therefore he says, Saha Yaha Esaha Akashaha Antarhridayahi. That space in the Akasha, which is there, that space, that Akasha, which is there in the heart. And what is the size of that space?
Thumb-like, anguli.
Where, what is the
Thumb-like.
pramanam?
We read it in one of the shlokas in Kathopanishad, I think.
That's what I'm asking. If you don't remember the sloka, at least you should remember the Upanishad. Which Upanishad has that?
Mundaka.
Kathopanishad.
Angushta Matram. Anybody? I keep saying, Upanishad class, you should be up to date with all Upanishads. At least go through them again and again. So it is there in the Katho Upanishad. And therefore, Tasmin Ayam Purushaha Manomayaha. Tasmin, in that space, which is the space in the individual heart, the mind is there. The mind is now the Alambanam. And this space also has another technical name which comes in Chandogya Upanishad. It is called Dahara Akashaha. So that name, that term you should remember. Dahara Akashaha is the space in the heart which is used for invocation. Right? So this Dahara Akasha, one needs to invoke Hiranyagarbha on this particular space. All right. Then he says Purushaha over here. I am Purushaha. So what? There are two meanings for Purusha. Shankara gives both. One is the one who resides in Puri, the body. Where did you come across this definition?
Chapter 30. Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita, where?
Kshetra Kshetrajna, the chapter of that, I think.
Navadvare Pure Dehi. Remember? So that's one. That the one who resides in the Puri is the body with the city with the 9 doors. Navadvare, that is Bhagavad Gita. Or also, another definition he gives is that which pervades all the lokas. So he says, Bhuradayaha Purnaha, that which is pervaded by all the lokas, by Hiranyagarbha. All the lokas are pervaded by Hiranyagarbha, and that is called Purushaha. That entity which is present through and through in all the lokas, that is called Hiranyagarbha. So two meanings are there. One is for one who resides in the body, that is the Veshti level. One is the one which pervades every single loka in this universe, that is at the Samashti level. And what type of Hiranyagarbha? So he uses the word Manomayaha. And we should not confuse this Manomayaha with Manomaya Kosha. Therefore, Shankara gives two meanings. One is that which can be known through the mind. So Manaha plus Mayaha, that which can be known through the mind is called Hiranyagarbha, Manomayaha. Also, Manomaya can mean the one who is identified with all individual minds. So both meanings are there. That Hiranyagarbha, that Purusha can be known through the mind, and that Purusha which has total mind identification. That is also another meaning. Then the words are Amrito Hiranyagarbha. So Amritaha here means eternal one. Okay. Again, we have to understand very carefully. This is Saguna Brahman or Nirguna Brahman we are talking about.
Saguna Brahman. No, this is Nirgun Brahman.
What is the logic for saying it is Nirguna Brahman?
Because he says it's eternal.
What are we talking about? Hiranyagarbha or what?
Hiranyagarbha.
Hiranyagarbha is Nirguna Brahman or Saguna Brahman?
Saguna Brahman.
Remember, Hiranyagarbha is very much Saguna Brahman, right? And therefore, what is it? Is it immortal or not? Very simple, basic questions now you come to.
No.
he dissolves
relatively immortal.
Apekshika Amritam. It is relatively immortal because absolute immortality is only for Nirguna Brahman. Hiranyagarbha has a life of what? 365 into 2000 Chaturyugas into 120 years. Okay. That is the life of Brahmaji, but he is still mortal. And therefore, this eternal, the Amritaha here has to be taken as relative immortality. Longer than for most people, longer than other beings, but still mortal. Okay, that understanding should be there when you say Amritaha. And Hiranyamaya, as I said, is because being of the nature of effulgence itself, it shines, meaning it is omniscient, is the meaning. Sarvagnya, all knowing. And that Hiranyagarbha I should invoke in my individual mind. Okay, so that is the Upasana. Then what happens? After death, the Upasaka goes where? To Brahma Loka. So that Jiva, the Upasaka, which is the Sukshma Shariram plus the Karma Shariram, he goes to Brahma Loka. And we saw this in chapter 8. The path of the travel is called Shukla Gatihi. And here he is talking about Shukla Gatihi. Where does that Shukla Gatihi begin? So Upanishad here says that Shukla Gati starts at the Hridayam. At the space of the inside the heart, it starts at the time of the death of the physical body of the Upasaka. The Sukshma Shariram will withdraw into the Hridayam, into the heart, withdraw from all over the body back into the heart, just like it does during Sushupti Avastha. And then from the Hridayam, Shastram says there are several nadis which go out, and there is a Sushupna Nadi. It originates from the heart, travels to the middle of the body, middle of the neck, and that is why he talks about that fleshy portion hanging inside the throat. If you look at your throat, there is a fleshy portion, like a small nipple it hangs, right? So that Sushumna Nadi is supposed to pass through that portion and then travel through the middle of the head and open up at the top of the skull. And through that Nadi, the Sukshma Shariram travels, passes out of the body through that Nadi at the opening of the skull, Brahmarandam as it's called, travels straight upwards, goes through the solar disk and reaches Brahmalokam. Surya Dvarena, Mundaka Upanishad. Right? And since the Shuklagati takes one to Brahmalokam, the Upanishad gives it a very specific name, calling it Indra Yoni. All this is mentioned here in this mantra. So look at the words. Antarena Taluke. Antarena means through the middle of what? Taluke. Taluka means the two pellets, the roof of the mouth, which are in the middle of the neck. And Yaha Esha Sthana Ivalambate. So inside the neck, there is a piece of flesh which is hanging down, which Shankara calls Mamsa Khanda, piece of flesh. And Avalambate, it hangs down like a nipple. And we have to supply through this, the Sushmana Nadi passes to the middle of the palate. And Shankara clarifies that it goes to the top of the skull. And Shankara in his commentary is very specific. He doesn't want us to doubt what the skull is. So he says, Yatrasau Keshanto Vivartate, Shruti says. Where all the hairs are located on the top portion of the skull in various places. And having reached the top of the skull, Vyapohya Shirsha Kapale, having pierced open Vyapohya. Vyapohya means Vibhajya, having cut open Shirsha Kapale, it is Shiraha Kapale, on top of the skull. What happens? It opens out. And that entire Sushma Nadi is called Indra Yoni. Remember, Yoni is a path. And Indra here is not Lord Indra. Indra here is Hiranyagarbha. So Indra Yoni basically is the path for reaching Hiranyagarbha. Right? All this can be done when you are a very experienced and practiced yogi. Therefore, for Krama Mukti, which we saw in the 8th chapter, Krama Mukti, you have to be an expert yogi, and not everybody is. That is why we say Jivan Mukti is much easier. Okay. So in some places in the country, I don't know if you're familiar with it, when a sannyasi dies, the top of his head they break open. The dead body's top of the head they break open so that making it easier for the jiva, for the Sukshma Shariram to travel out of the head. It doesn't have to actually break the head, they break it for him. So he can travel by Brahma Loka and get Shuklagati. Right? So here the Upanishad is saying is that a Grihastha will also go to Brahma Loka if he practices this Hiranyagarbha Upasana. Remember that Hiranyagarbha is omniscient, and as a total Samashti Prana, he is all powerful, omnipotent also. And that is why this Upasana is sometimes called Nishkrishta Vastuni Utkrishta Upasana. Means on an inferior entity, Nikrishta Vastuni, on an inferior entity, Utkrishta Darshanam Upasanam. Visualizing a superior entity, which is Hiranyagarbha, on a inferior entity, which is your individual mind. So, Vyashti Manaha is Nikrishtaha. Hiranyagarbha is Utkrishtaha. Visualizing the superior entity on the inferior entity. This is also another name given to this Upasana. For Upasana done in a Saguna manner, the benefit is becoming Hiranyagarbha. The same Upasana, if it is done with Nishkama manner, without asking for anything, it leads to Chitta Shuddhi and Chitta Ekagrata. These are the spiritual benefits. And such a mind is capable of understanding the Shastra. But for Sakama Upasana, the same Upasana, it is Brahma Loka Praptihi. Remember, the Brahma Loka Praptihi is only post your death. But Chitta Shuddhi is very much during this lifetime. And therefore, it is better to focus on Chitta Shuddhi and not on Kramamukti. Okay. So with this, we'll stop here. With this, have we finished the Upasana? No, we have not finished the Upasana. So we'll have to carry on next time. Any questions?
Acharyaji, you said keeping the mind as the alambanam. Can you elaborate a little bit how exactly does that work?
When you invoke, let us say, Lord Shiva on the Shiva Lingam, what are you doing?
I'm trying to see the Shivalingam and repeat the mantra.
No, Shiva Lingam is okay, but what are you doing? What is the invocation? You are not, Shiva Lingam is only a piece of stone, right?
Yeah.
What makes it sacred?
Trying to see Lord Shiva in the Shivalingam.
Trying to see, right? Now that's all very, what you call non-Vedantic terms. Vedantic terms, you say invocation.
Okay.
You invoke the Lord on the Shiva Lingam. Which is basically what you are saying is, you are starting the prayer and saying that, this is your place, O Lord, please come and occupy it during my Upasana. If you have seen any worship when you are TTC, you will see that there is an invocation.
Yeah.
You invoke, you ask the Lord to come and sit over there for the period of the Upasana. That is what exactly you are doing while you are doing your puja. You are asking the Lord to come and sit there so that He is in front of you while you do the puja. In Upasana, you're doing the same thing. You're asking the Lord to come and sit in the Shiva Lingam while you are doing the Upasana. After Upasana is over, you tell the Lord, I have finished, now you can go back to your seat. Similarly, when you do the Upasana on your mind, you are asking the Lord to come and sit in your mind. So actually, it's a visualization. It's a adhyasa, superimposition. It is not really knowledge. You are just visualizing that Hiranyagarbha is sitting inside your mind.
Thank you, Acharyaji.
Acharyaji,
Yeah.
For me, it's not clear what is the Mahavyarati.
It's one of the varieties, Maha. Bhur, Bhava, Swaha, Maha. 4 words which are uttered by Lord Brahma.
Okay.
Each one is a Vyarati. Vyarati literally means spoken. So the four, sounds which he made, those are this. Bhu, Bhuva, Swaha, Maha.
Thank you.
These are the names of the words actually. Bhu, Swaha, Maha. All these are one lokas basically.
Om Acharya-ji. So
Yeah.
just one clarification, please. So in Upasana, that means the invocation will always be temporary only?
Yes. Upasana means once you have finished in the Upasana is over, invocation is over. Because you are in duality.
So, but then like when we are meditating on Aham Brahmasmi and the permanence of it is wanted, so that time also only in meditation it will be temporary and
That is
then...
not Upasana. That is the Aham. See the difference, that is exactly the difference between Abheda Upasana and Abheda Jnanam. In Upasana, you have not yet understood that you are Brahman. So you have to invoke. After
Okay.
Shravanam Mananam is over, there is no invocation needed because you know you are Brahman. You don't have to invoke you onto yourself.
Yes, I get it. Thank
Abheda
you.
Upasana is different from Abheda Jnanam, always.
I got it now. Thank you.
Okay. So that's been a heavy session. So I'll leave you to think about it. Please do revisit the class, make your notes so that the next session is also fruitful. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you so much, Acharya.